Hey everybody, in Don on Shopland, I'm Mike McAvan. This is the new DeCarlo guitar, and check out some shred. Go and get one soon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Robert DeLesso, and I'm the host of Rob's Inner Circle, broadcasting live from Montreal, Canada. We're broadcasting on my personal Facebook page, on the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel, and on the Rob's Inner Circle Facebook page. The usual shout out goes out to my good friend and producer of Rob's Inner Circle, Miss Jenny Duhame, and to our podcast techie, none other than the lovable and adorable Patty Lady Starlight Saragosa. We have an honorable mention tonight. This is a name that you've heard many times here in Rob's Inner Circle, but I just cannot not mention the fact that I was on a movie set yesterday, and it was none other than Teresa Picciano's movie set, a film producer from Montreal. A Seamless Journey, the name of the short film. I had an absolute ball on that set. Just wanted to mention that Teresa Picciano is a class act. Such an honor to have worked with you, Teresa. You always make sure that everybody has everything that they need. Everybody's accounted for. Teresa, thank you so much for giving me the honor of working on the movie set with you. Seamless Journey. It's going to be coming out in 2022. It's a short film, and the director of photography on Seamless Journey is none other than Montreal's own Ionis Katrubis. We have Elio Costello, who's directing. The production manager is Shante Gibson, and Teresa is acting on in the movie and also producing the movie. And it was fun hanging out with my good friend, our techie, Patty Saragosa, who was on the movie as well with me. Esther Brzezinski was there as well, along with Esther Brzezinski, as a lot of you know. She's my co-host on Noon Hour Out of the Box, and her lovable significant other, Fernando Renzo, was there as well. And we had a Montreal actor, Matthew Jufrida, in which I shot a scene with, which was a lot of fun. We want to remind you that the Daily Struggles sitcom is up and running on the Rise Up TV channel on the Roku streaming service. If you don't have the Roku streaming stick, not a problem. All you got to do is go on to Amazon.com or .ca, and you can get it for as little as $30. All of the Rob's Inner Circle merchandise is available at 514brandingco.com. That's 514brandingco.com, and that's thanks to our collaborative effort that we have going with our good friend Vinny the Hat Gargano. We invite you to go onto the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel. Go check out all of our productions. Click on the playlist. You want to go check out Rob's Inner Circle, all of those podcasts. You want to give us some likes, some thumbs, share, subscribe to Bobby Short Shorts, the YouTube channel, and also hit that notification bell, because every time there's a new production coming out, you will be the first to know. Well, folks, it is time once again to slip into our weekly ritual. This is the moment when we just sit back and relax, take a deep breath, let out the air, the bad air, kick up your feet on the corner of your desk, sit back, relax, have the glass of wine, have the bottle of beer, and enjoy tonight's show. Folks, it's showtime. Let's get it on. It is time to bring out tonight's guest, who's standing by eagerly backstage. He is Canada's pride. He's a singer, he's a songwriter, and he's Canada's best guitarist you'll ever see. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our profound pleasure to welcome Canada's superstar, Mr. Mike McAvan. Mike, thanks so much for being on Rob's Inner Circle, and welcome.
Wow, I don't know how I'm gonna follow that up.
No, all you gotta do is just be yourself, Mike, because you're a sensational. You're not only a sensational performer, but you're also a sensational human being. For the time that I spent pre-interviewing you before the show, I got to know such a fine gentleman, Mike. Like I said, it's such a pleasure to have you on.
So, do I have your email so I can just transfer you the money after the show for all those nice things?
Yeah, well, we are going to have the meet and greet, right, Mike? So, listen, right. I'm willing to talk. You know, if you can prevent me from going into my other job tomorrow, hey, listen, we can talk. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what it was like growing up, and, you know, just spill the beans.
Well, originally, I'm from Montreal, so I'm an expat, and I loved it there. My Montreal will always be a part of my soul, my heart, everything. Moved to Toronto when I was in my early teens, and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And I went back and forth and did a lot of different things and lived a lot of different places, but I finally found my home in Huntsville, Ontario, which is part of a greater collective called Muskoka.
Mike, you're such a superstar. You're world renowned. And here's the proof. You got someone tuning in from England, Mr. Michael Ankers. Mike, thanks a lot for tuning in. Along with all of you who are tuning in tonight, we have a great show for you guys. Mike, tell us, at what age did you discover that you wanted to be a guitarist?
Well, early on, like I was like 5, 6, 7. I always picked up guitar in music, and it was just one of those things that I was mesmerized by it. And then I saw some guitar players play, and I kind of was like, wow, that looks kind of cool. And then I discovered, Black Sabbath, and I heard Yes, and I heard Asia, and Queen, and Randy Rhoads, Andy Summers from the Police. So I heard all these different players, and I was just like, wow. And David Gilmour from, Pink Floyd. And I was just like taken, like it was, and especially the guys with Thin Lizzy too. They really messed me up too. So.
Well, you were talking about Randy Rhoads, and Randy Rhoads was a young guitarist who died tragically, and that was Ozzy Osbourne's solo artist, guitarist. I remember he died tragically a while back. That was such a loss. He was so talented.
Yeah, he was. He didn't really get to truly realize, his journey and what he was going to do with guitar. So,
okay, as you were growing up, which bands, what kind of music did you listen to? Which bands were the bands that influenced you the most? It's like, I understand you had a particular liking for AC/DC.
Oh yeah, I loved AC/DC. Like, the Bon Scott days. I absolutely worshipped that stuff. Like every young kid, I liked Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Thin Lizzy, and I loved the Police. I loved Yes. I loved Asia. I discovered UK early on as well. I like Genesis quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, a really wide variety of stuff.
Well, speaking of a wide variety, you're also a very big Queen fan. I mean, that's opera rock. How can you make the balance between heavy metal and opera? Is there any way you can make a balance between those two types of music? Do they marry well with each other?
Well, yeah. I mean, absolutely it can. I mean, you can marry anything, really. I mean, you have to think of the Western scale has 12 notes in it, and it's just a matter of how you treat those notes and how you place them and how you texture them and whatnot. So in terms of like, I mean, Queen did some incredibly heavy stuff sometimes. I mean, early on they were very much, nipping at the heels of Led Zeppelin and Sabbath and all those other bands, right? So, um, but yeah,
Well,
they're incredible.
Brian May is an absolutely amazing guitarist, and I think that he's one of the most underrated guitarists.
I don't know about underrated. I think he's well known for what he does. So
Looks like you have a huge collection of guitars behind you. That must be from your shop, but you own quite a few guitars personally.
I do.
Can you name the guitars you own? It's like what kind of guitars they are, what you use them for?
Guitars are like paintbrushes for me. Like, like lately, especially after some medical stuff that happened with me, I'm going back to Les Pauls and 4 3/4 scale kind of guitars, like SGs and Les Pauls, and I'm comfortable there. But I like Strats and Tellys. I've got some ESPs, some old custom stuff that they made. I've got some stuff that I've built myself personally and whatnot. And I've got a couple other custom sort of things that I play and whatnot. So
You own a recording studio. Have you recorded for some artists?
I did Jada Kelly's demo. Then I think eventually I did a bunch of stuff. I did my own stuff. I did some stuff with Gypsy Rose in my studio. Just some demo things and whatnot. Pre-production type things.
I guess you do some producing, don't you?
Yeah, I try not to get involved in that too much. I've done it. I don't like doing it. So, yeah.
Okay, you have a certain I won't say appetite, but a certain liking for death metal bands. Which of these bands in particular are a band that really reaches out to you and touches you in the death metal genre?
Well, see, this is the thing that actually Jill and I had this conversation the other day about. Yeah, I like certain death metal. There's main bands that I like I like Morbid Angel. I like Celtic Frost or Celtic Frost, however which way you want to pronounce it. Entombed, but I don't actually go out of my way to look out or seek out new bands in the genre. I mean, yeah, if a friend's band is playing and they're a death metal band, yeah, I'll check it out for sure, definitely. I mean, I have a lot of friends who play that stuff, like Ollie Baudouin, Cataclysm, and Nick from Tribe of Pazuzu. So it's like, yeah, I like the genre, but do I listen to it all the time? No, because that'd be like eating pizza every day or lasagna every day. Although lasagna every day would be too bad, but
So you moved from the great city of Montreal, and you went to Ontario. Is there any particular reason why you would leave Montreal and go to Ontario, especially where you are right now?
well, where I am right now afforded me the opportunity to buy a store and open up my own business doing that and give the community here something a little different, a little bit more original, something that's completely out from left field, but something that works in a real way.
So you said you're 2 hours north of Toronto in a city called Huntsville, and that would be Huntsville, Ontario, not Alabama.
Yeah.
You said you love the city. There's such a great vibe to the city. What is it exactly that attracts you to the city of Huntsville?
Well, the people here are amazing. It's very warm. It's a small town. And everybody, if you're new and you're doing something different like this, everybody knows you. And there's a certain charm to that. And I like the fact that it is small, but it has everything that you basically need to live a nice, fulfilling life. I mean, and we got some great restaurants. We've got a great food scene. We've got a very fertile music scene. Um, around, surrounded by vegetation like forests and beautiful woods and landscapes. It's just gorgeous. It's breathtaking.
I believe we have a question over here, Patty. If you can put it up first, please. In the meantime, we're gonna add R&R. There we go. Last time I was in your shop, you were still working on it. The, did you complete your shop? Is it to your satisfaction yet?
Um, who's asking that?
R&R and R&R.
Arr. It's a constant. It's hard. Um, One of the things that happened with COVID is materials became very hard to come by. So uh, everything's delayed, and everything costs 3 times as much. So we're almost there. The actual main sales floor is ready to go. As you can see, I've got guitars up on the wall, and we've been selling stuff through and whatnot. We sell a lot of sundry stuff like strings and picks and tuners and things like that. But of course, we've been selling guitars as well. But the main thing is the kitchen. We had to bring the kitchen up to snuff. We had to bring it to where we were happy ourselves working in it. We could have done with the old kitchen, but it needed a facelift. It needed some love, and that's what we did. I've always been into old stuff and reconditioning things and just making them better and just putting love into it. And quite honestly, the building just has so much heart, and it's such a showpiece in the community. It's the oldest commercial building in Huntsville, and I think Muskoka maybe even. I'm not sure, but definitely in Huntsville. It's the oldest building in Huntsville, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it has like a Tim Burton-esque quality when you first come up onto it, but then when you walk in, it's very sort of Queen Street chic with some funk of that, and then we've got like a bit of a Muskoka comfort thing going on as well.
Your store is called Music on Main. Is there a reason why you decided to call it Music on Main? And it is actually an interesting name.
It's funny because I was thinking like the red guitar. Like I was thinking because like the red violin, I love that movie. It's fantastic. Then I was thinking the purple guitar because I own a purple ESP, sparkly purple thing. And then we were driving around. It was Jill and I, and she just said, "What about Music on Main?" And I just turned her. I said, "That's it. That's the name."
How old is the building? Is it actually a heritage building?
It is a heritage building. I think it's 1840s. I think.
Oh my God! Wow.
I forget what it was.
So you said you opened up the guitar shop back in just before Christmas of 2020.
Yeah.
And as you were opening up, you went through many hardships. You were telling me that's besides the the construction. There are a few obstacles you had to encounter. You mind sharing that with us?
Well, yeah. Anytime you enter in a business transaction, things can go wrong, and things did go wrong in the prior deal. There were certain aspects of the deal that I could not sort of live with as a reasonable, wanting to be successful person. So I walked on the deal, and I was in breach of contract. So oddly enough, it's kind of ironic because you're trying to save your hide, but at the same time you're in breach of contract. So there's that whole juxtaposition going on there, and it's a weird dynamic to be in, and that was really hard. And I forged on like I do, the good old tenacity kicking in, and I got out of the deal, and literally the day after, I was like, I called my friend Jamie Lockwood, who's probably the most amazing, sweet, incredibly honest, the best real estate agent anybody can ever come across. And we just did the deal right away. It was like bang. And he's been really helpful. He's been super. He's been a fan. He's been a supporter. You know, he comes in here, he's just like blown away by some of the changes that have happened and whatnot. So, but
Well,
yeah, there was some hardships. I mean, COVID wasn't easy to deal with, and then because of the stress and all the turmoil and my blood pressure shot up, and I had a stroke on January 10th, and that put me out of commission for about 5 months. So. But then I came at it like Rocky Balboa and Rocky 16 or whatever you want to call it.
Well, you said the stroke is affected you in such a way that you're still playing guitar, but to many they say that Mike is back, but actually you're not happy. You believe you're still not at your standards right now after the stroke.
Well, that's just my personality and where I am in terms of my level of playing. I mean, I've put on so many tens of thousands of hours of playing time, and you know, I got to a certain level of technique where my picking hand is like so deadly accurate, and you know, I pride myself on that, and it is pride. It's not an ego thing. It's just more of like, you know, I play at a certain level, and I want to retain playing at that level. And one of the things that was affected was the super fine, super ultra techniques where the motor skills and whatnot, right? The damping, the all that stuff, and it's hard. It's really hard because it's not only a emotional thing, it's very much a physical and mental thing, because like your brain thinks it, but there's this roadblock there, and your brain's sending a message, but it's not completely getting to where it needs to go, and you're not getting the results from your right hand. I mean, it's getting better. I mean, considering I could not play, I couldn't even hold a pick. Like the day I came home from the hospital, and you know, it was great. Jill brought up my Steinberger to the hospital, so at least I could have something to hold and try and get my fingers going. And I couldn't. I would drop my pick constantly.
Oh.
And when I came home, I just stopped playing altogether. And you know, she would basically put my pick in my hand and say, you have to feel it. You have to get used to it. You have to have it in your hand and really get a sensation for it again. And that helped. And then,
so that goes to show that Jill is a huge supporter of yours.
You know what? I don't think I would have healed as well as I did if it wasn't for her and her daughters. So.
Well, we're grateful that you came out of this trying time a winner. And Mike, we hope to see you shred like that live and probably one of our future shows, because we've had some guests on the show who are coming back, and maybe in a future show we could probably see you live shredding away.
Well, the hand's coming back, so it's slowly but surely coming back. It's interesting. You get like these tingly feelings and sensations when. And apparently that's some of the neural paths are rebuilding or revitalizing or whatnot. So
there's we got a bit of a scare today. Facebook went down, and because we're broadcasting on 2 pages on Facebook, we were a little worried, but we would have been okay on the YouTube. So to all you people who are tuned into Facebook right now, well, a good part of the day from noon to, let's say, 7, Facebook was down, and it's back, and we're grateful for that. And to the audience, folks, don't be shy. Our guest tonight is an amazing songwriter, a singer. He's Canada's best guitarist. He's absolutely amazing. Mike McAvan. Prepare some questions. Feel free. We got a half hour to go. We got a lot of time. So, Mike, tell us exactly what is it that goes on in your shop at Music on the Main.
Well, it's hard to say. What I wanted was a hub, was someplace where people can come and just hang, and play guitar and check out new gear and learn about new gear, and someplace nurturing where people can learn and immerse themselves in music and chill out. And originally I was just going to do coffee and truck in some baked goods so I can avoid doing the whole food license thing. But then things started to evolve, and then we thought, okay, why don't we do a cafe thing? And then slowly but surely, Jill started making waves about coming on board, and then next thing I was like, yeah, whatever, sure, but I don't believe you, but that's a nice thought, but sure, okay, no problem. And sure enough, she started telling friends and started talking about it more, and then we are doing it, and we make a great team. We are definitely very much like a machine when it comes to working in a kitchen together, prepping. We have a lot of the same sort of thought patterns. It's really, really cool to be working with someone like that. We got, you're a fighter, Mike. Oh, it's my Uncle Norm Zimmerman.
Norm Zimmerman was one of our guests on our show. Thank you for tuning in, Norm. He's with Steve's Music Shop. He's an amazing man, and we had a great show with him.
Norm has known me since I had my long hair and my coat. And yeah, he's very much like an uncle to me, and he is someone I've learned so much about, like the music industry, just being with him and hanging with him. He's truly inspirational. He's Uncle Norm. What can I say?
He's an amazing man. He's involved with charity work. Like I said, a great guest. And to all you folks out there who are tuned in, remember you can go to the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel, click onto the Rob's Inner Circle playlist, and you can go watch our podcast with Norm Zimmerman and all our other podcasts. We also had other amazing guests, such as our guest tonight, Mr. Mike McAvan. Mike, you're also a luthier. Tell us exactly what a luthier does.
Well, luthiers generally fix and build guitars, so that's kind of.
Well, you also repair guitars, right? A luthier is a technician who fixes all stringed instruments. Would violin be included in there?
Yeah, but I don't do that.
Okay, so you're basically working on guitars.
Guitars, ukuleles. I'll do some mandolins if I have to. Banjos if I have to.
Okay, so you're selling stringed instruments, more specifically guitars and basses.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you give us a little quick tour of those guitars you got right behind us, and you can at the same time plug your shop. The first one there looks like a bass, the cream-colored one there.
Yeah, it's one of the vintage basses, the vintage line of the UK. It's a really cool guitar made in the import. It's basically it's an import, but what they do is they use Wilkinson hardware and electronics. So Trev Wilkinson is a sort of leading pioneer of guitar parts and guitar building and guitar technology, and they use a lot of his stuff in there. So in terms of hardware and competitive value, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So, with vintage at the $600 mark, you get what would be equivalent to Fender in the $1,200 mark. And then behind that is all the Fret King stuff, which is absolutely amazing. It's like sort of like radical takes on what Fender or Gibson would be. And I mean, you've got the Esprit 3 here, which is like 3 P90s, a vibrasonic kind of tremolo Bigsby thing. set neck, locking machine heads, the whole 9 yards. I mean, they're great guitars. They're just wonderful. I can't say enough about them. Really, for me, the true test of a quality company is when you pull a guitar out of the box and it's actually in tune and it's set up, which is fantastic. Because, I mean, who wants to set up 26 guitars or go through that?
Well, I guess someone's bringing you a lot of good luck. Pierre, the mascot. You have a pigeon who hangs around your store and comes by daily to come and do his route. And apparently he's been helping you with sales.
Well, I'm not sure what Pierre's purpose.
Pierre, the mascot.
Pierre, the mascot. It's really strange. I've never really encountered anything like it. I think it's weird. I've heard in various cultures, good luck to have birds present. It could be someone who's, in a past life or something. I'm not sure exactly what the connotation is. I know good luck and good fortune is one of them. So this little guy, he basically, if when the door was open in the summer, he would walk in. He'd walk past the mat and walk right onto the wood floor, right in the middle of the floor. He'd look around, do this whole thing, and he'd look at me, and he'd keep looking at me as he's walking out.
So Thomas Robinson, to whom you've sold his first guitar, has a question here. He goes, what Les Paul model is your favorite to play? Thanks for tuning in, Thomas.
Oh, wow. There's so many. I mean, I own a Gibson Les Paul Jr. that I absolutely adore. I mean, I'll never, ever get rid of that. I have an Edwards Les Paul replica from Japan that I love. It's like a custom shop. It's all beaten up and it's got DiMarzio pickups in it and whatnot. I like that one quite a bit. I like the SGs quite a bit too. I rediscovered them for some reason, which is kind of weird because when I first started playing them, I never really liked them. But I guess something happened in that, like I said, with the whole stroke thing. I guess the 24 3/4 neck just felt right for me. I know it's just strange, but definitely I would say the Les Paul Jr. that I have and my ESP, the Edwards one that I love.
At Music on Main, do you do some guitar rentals?
We don't, no.
Okay, do you offer music or luthier classes at your shop?
Luthier classes. There's been a couple of youngsters in the neighborhood who've wanted to basically come in and apprentice on learning how to fix stuff. So yeah.
Okay, we have a question here coming from the UK from Michael. He goes that he's a singer, he's a songwriter. I don't know how to play guitar or any instrument. Do you think I should learn to play guitar?
Well, yeah, why not? It's a great instrument because it's portable. You get so many different textures out of it too. Like, I mean, you look at a guy like Robert Fripp, or you look at a guy like Andy Summers, for instance, just master of creating soundscapes, or like a guy like Justin K. Broderick from Godflesh, who just creates nightmare sort of soundscapes. And there's so many things you can do with it, and it's just such a great instrument to write on. And yeah.
We got a question coming here from R&R. He goes, what makes your Les Paul Jr. so great?
Well, it's a funny story because it that long with Quaid forever, and people would buy it and they take it home and they drop tune it and then they bring it back because it just wouldn't intonate. So it went in and out about 4 or 5 times, and then I got to it, and I actually got it for a song. And then the first thing I did is I changed the bridge. I put a Tone Pro bridge on it, which makes all the difference in intonation. I changed the nut. I took the original pickup out, which they sound great. P90s are amazing. I love P90s, but in terms of a live and studio thing, for me, I find I run into a lot of noise. So I ended up going with a overwound Lindy Fralin noiseless P90, which is incredible sounding. It's one of my favorite pickups. There's something about the guitar. I used to work with a woman by the name of Michelle Hanlon, and actually she signed her name on it because we're like, okay, well, we got to name this one Michelle, because I was actually looking for a gold top, and I was looking for a custom shop historic thing. I was going to spend $4,000-5,000 on it, and then this thing came in. It was going to cost me like $400 to buy it, and she was like, "It sounds like $1,000,000, and it works for you, and you should get that." So I did. It was kind of like a no-brainer.
My time is flying by over here. We'll get back to your questions if we have some time pertaining to your shop. Let's talk to you a little. Let's talk to you actually. Let's talk about your music career. But we have also a fan coming in from Japan over here, Ryu Cat, and he's asking what advice about band. Not sure what you're asking, Ryu Cat. But before we move on to your musical career, let's try to figure out what Ryu Cat is saying there. I guess he's probably trying to say, what kind of advice would you give for a band, in terms of putting the band together? Let's try that. Maybe that's what he means.
Well, I mean, it's good to play with people with like skills and whatnot. The whole thing is, it's a neat relationship. You want to, especially if you want to do something great with it. Like you want to have like personalities that work well, and it's just really nice to have almost a vibe. For me, the most important thing of a band is being able to work with one another, and people take criticism, constructive criticism, well, and just be respectful of one another, right? And just really strive for a common goal. I mean, these days it's so incredibly difficult because there's so many bands out there, and what's going to make your band stand out over everybody else? It isn't, because it's almost impossible in a sea of all these different bands, because like really it's so much noise out there. It's not like back in the day of Led Zeppelin where there was only one Zeppelin. Now there's like 13 Slayers. Well, sorry, probably 13,000 Slayers, more like it, and 16,000 like Metallicas. So it's about getting out there and interfacing your Instagram with your Facebook, with all your social marketing, and get out there and do your own thing, put out your own product.
So let's talk a little bit about your musical career, Mike. How much of your original music have you produced?
Well, sixes and sevens, I produced a good chunk of that. We did a lot in my basement, like towards the end. It was like we're doing a lot of our own producing. Gorilla, I did some production with that. Lost in Toyland was more like a cover band, and Gypsy Rose, well, they had their own producer going on, so yeah.
So which of your original songs is the one that touches your heart the most?
Well, I used to play in a pop band called Waiting for Lucy, and we did a bunch of interesting sort of tunes, but there was this one song that we had, and it literally got no airplay, did nothing. That one, in Your Life, was probably my thing. It was probably the most perfect song I've ever written.
Okay, are you still actively playing guitar professionally outside of teaching?
Well, I've been really busy with the shop. I mean, there's so much to do. It's like you finish one thing and there's like 16 other things to do. So I really haven't been as much. And I mean, basically, COVID put a real damper on things. The industry just stopped. So, I try and play guitar every day. I take a break. I have to take breaks. It's not like I was before. People call me the Energizer Bunny, but definitely not that anymore. I mean, when you suffer something so debilitating as a stroke, you start to your body goes into an ultra shock. And now I find I'll work for about an hour or so, and I'll be like, okay, I need to sit down and have a break. And sometimes it's fatigue hits me harder than other times, but I try and work through, and I try and be responsible. I have a lot to live for. I'm a very lucky guy. I have some great friends. I have a great family, and it's all about keeping things in balance. That's
You're an absolutely exhilarating lead guitar player. You even won the title, the King of Shred in a competition pre-COVID. It looks so easy, but it's so hard. How can you attain a skill like that? I mean, I'm watching you play and I'm wondering, I go, is that even possible that I'm actually seeing what I'm seeing?
well. Thank you. Part of it is passion, and a while back, I got a chance to hang out with Steve Vai, and really we picked each other's brain about stuff, and other players as well, like not just Steve, and there's certain plateaus you reach, and one of the things that he and I talked about was like hearing music everywhere, hearing harmonic content. So I'm lucky enough to be living in like a very rural setting where there's a little brook in the background that you can hear the water running. You can hear the every animal so clearly. That we have owls that just they chirp and squawk, and they who cooks for you and all that stuff. Those sounds they make, and so there's this constant rhythm, and there's this flow in nature, and I think that really hearing the notes and hearing the rhythm and all that stuff in it really inspires me to go the next step. And of course, I love listening to stuff like Django Reinhardt and Matthias Ekland and all these amazing players and Steve Morse. And for me, it's a passion. It's just going the next step and being able to play things like a Niccolo Paganini piece or something by J.S. Bach or something like that. So it's become less of sport and more of a passion.
And what are some of your favorite meet and greets in the industry? Because I know you've been at a lot of NAMM shows. So among all of the meet and greets, which of those do you think touched you the most?
Oh wait, we gotta move to Japan. There's a question here from Thomas.
Oh, go ahead.
I believe. Sure, you
Okay.
can.
You-
How's that? Oh, Nam was chaotic. It's absolutely chaotic. It's like it's a endless bottle of Tylenol or aspirin or whatever works for you. It's loud. It's constantly meeting and greeting. It's you drink too much, you eat really crappy food. Um, well, not crappy food, but you know what I mean. Um, Japan is cool. Japan's really cool. There's some neat stuff going on there. But yeah, Nam is.
What are the most memorable meet and greets you had, like namely at NAM or whatever? Is there a musician or an individual that you bumped into and to this day that you still cherish that moment?
There's a bunch. I mean, I got a chance to meet Stevie Wonder once. I've met Prince. I've met Daniel Lanois. I'm really good friends with Kim Mitchell. I absolutely adore him. He's such a great guy, such a great friend. Sil Simone, he comes in. He's been to my shop once. Phil X is a great guy as well. I've known him forever. Chris Poland was a big one for me because, like, I actually auditioned for Megadeth way, way back when I was a lot younger. And I got to meet Chris afterwards, and I was a huge fan of what he did with the band, but I was also a huge fan of his fusion jazz stuff that he did with Ohm. And He actually wrote some stuff for Disney as well, believe it or not. And that was really cool meeting him and hanging out. Got to meet Lemmy and actually jam with him. I jammed with the guys in King's X once. That was kind of cool.
How about Doug Aldrich, like Thomas Robinson says here?
Doug's great. Doug's such a cool guy. He's awesome. He's just like salt of the earth. He's very forthcoming. He's chill. He's very approachable. He's a true gentleman, a true professional.
Have you played at the international level, like at festivals? You name it. Have you done any of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Gypsy Rose toured Europe. I did a bunch of stuff with national artists as well. So yeah, I mean, I've done all sorts of things. I mean, I've played small theaters, played pop theaters. I played in amphitheaters. So
we got Ted Stills who's tuned in and he's saying he's enjoying tonight's show. Thank you so much, Ted, for both your comment and your presence. And we hope you're going to be sharing tonight's show. You'll be able to rebroadcast. We're rebroadcasting our show, actually, and it'll be on forever. You can watch Mike many, many times over and give us your comments, like I said, and share. Give us your thumbs and what have you. Tell us, Mike, what was the name of the first band that you formed, and how did you form it, and when did you form it?
Well, my first band was probably when I was 12 or 13, and we were like obsessed with Judas Priest, and so we called the band Deceiver for Dreamer Deceiver, one of the songs off, I think it was Rock'n'Rolla, forget. But that was our thing. I'd bought the Hero double record album set, and I was like, that was my Bible for a little while. And we were very much like Judas Priest when we started.
Well, are you still performing with bands minus the COVID-19 issues? Like in terms of, let's say, doing some performances, but you're doing this like virtually without necessarily an audience. However, they are loosening up a little bit here in Quebec. Not too sure what's happening in Ontario, but to go back to the original question, are you still performing with bands nowadays?
Well, the last thing that I did was for an organization called The Table here, who they basically, it's like a gourmet food sort of charity organization, and it's a great organization. I mean, and there's some wonderful people working for them. So they did a thing right before Christmas, right after I bought this store here, and I went up and I did about, I think it was 4 or 5 songs, just instrumental guitar. So what I did is I had my clinic stuff on my little iPod or my phone. I forget which format I used, but we piped it in. We mixed it in with my Pod XT Pro, my Line 6, and I basically just performed with some backing tracks, and it went over fabulously well. I mean, I think it was very different from all the acoustic performers that were there, but it was really cool, and that was the last thing I did, and then literally it was like jumping into the fire here and trying to get the whole shop ready for.
Obviously, you have a huge fan here. Thomas Robinson says, great show. And thank you for Mike McAvan, guitar and gear guru. So it looks like you have a huge fan here in Thomas Robinson.
I've known Tom for a very long time. He's one of the sweetest individuals I know. He is what you call all heart. He's like the epitome of what a dad should be. And he's a great guitar player and a huge supporter. And you know what? He's a great friend.
So, Mike, what's next for you musically? What's coming up musically? What are your plans? Are you planning provided things get better with the COVID situation? Are you planning some kind of a concert? You do some touring, some traveling? So you're going to have some new music coming out. What's coming up in terms of music for you?
Well, I don't know if touring is going to be in the cards. I think this is going to be a big part of my life, and I'm good with that. I've done a lot of touring. I've done a lot of playing, and I'm okay with just doing this right now. In terms of putting out music, that's a different story. I mean, I hear it almost every week. Jill says it once or twice a week. Where when was the last time you picked up a guitar? When was the last time you wrote a song? You need to get on that. You need to write again. You need to write amazing stuff, like some of the soundtrack stuff that I've done and whatnot, and some of the stuff I've done for other people. She's like, you should do it, and you should do it for yourself. And so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put some solo records up.
She sounds exactly like the woman I have in my life. She's absolutely supportive. And, I understand where, you're coming from. Having that support, having someone behind you, it makes all that much difference. Sometimes, you might lack a little bit of motivation, but with that backing you have, sometimes it's that little push you need just to get you over the hump.
Well, I think for her is like, she just wants to see me happy and see me do what I do. I mean, musicians, it's like a fish in water, really. You have to be writing, you have to be creating and doing that kind of thing. So it's kind of like, hey, just do it.
We got R&R asking if you would consider performing again, like right now, maybe on a local stage.
Absolutely, I would consider it. My hand's back to a point where I think I can make my way through most of my old material. So yeah, I would consider it.
Do you foresee new rise in the music industry over the next few years? Do you see music resurging in some form or way?
Well, the thing is, there's so much great music that doesn't get discovered, and again, it's the noise. It's all the noise on the internet. It's almost like there's too much out there. So, but at the same time, you've got this younger generation that's coming up right behind me and whatnot, and like, there's some amazing players there, and they're listening to the old stuff. They're listening to Hendrix. They're listening to Van Halen 1 and 2. They're listening to the Sammy Hagar era of Van Halen. They're listening to Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. They're discovering all this new stuff. And the guys that was just on there, Wesley Jones, fantastic young player who comes and hangs out in the shop, and he gives me a hand. This kid is the epitome of what a gentleman should be, and he's great. He's got a great heart. He's got a great attitude. One thing that I see in him, he's got this, and there's this hunger and this drive when he plays, and it's just like there's that there. That's like, if this kid keeps up the way he's going, and he takes some of the knowledge I'm going to partake in, he could very well be, one of the leading guitar players of that generation.
Why is it that you think that, and this is a phenomenon that I'm seeing myself, and I've had a few guests on the show over here, and they're young fellows, like sometimes in their teens or early 20s, but all the music that's out there right now, they want nothing with it. They like good old-fashioned rock and roll. We're talking Led Zeppelin here. We're talking Scorpions, AC/DC. Why is it that you think that youngsters these days are going back to the roots? Whereas, instead of adapting to the music that we have today, why do you think they're going backwards into time in terms of music?
Well, there's a couple things in play there. There's the fact that back when I was younger listening to music, development deals. That doesn't exist anymore. You've got one chance and one chance only, and it's basically, you know, it's make or break kind of thing. Music was more nurtured back in the day, where now it's become a lot more sort of disposable in some cases. Not to say there isn't good music coming out. There's some amazing stuff out there. Like, one of the things that I'm really digging these days is I've rediscovered Stephen Wilson, who's a British-born singer-songwriter, producer, progressive rock guy. I think, and quite honestly, he's probably one of the most important composers of this century. I mean, his stuff is just unreal. And good night, Michael. And yeah, I mean him. And then there's a band from France called the Mayans, who are incredible. It's actually a band, but it's one guy in the studio who does everything. So they're quite. I mean, there's so many great bands out there, and like they're doing things on their own, and they're putting it out on their own. And again, it's that nurturing of the music, and I think that's what the difference is from back then and now. And that's why a lot of young people are discovering a lot of the older stuff, because there was a true art.
Did you get to jam with some of these renowned musicians, actually? But before we get to that, we have James Mossman here. Patty put this up before. I just want to read this to you. James Mossman says you should enter the Huntsville Got Talent show. Really introduce yourself to the town.
Huntsville's Got Talent. I don't think I've even heard of that.
Well, you know what? Hey, you heard it here first. Maybe you can go see your mayor and get this underway.
What this Michael Anchors is? Oh, he's got. Oh, okay, someone else's.
Okay, so Michael Alvarez, he just signed up. So the question was, yes, did you get to jam with some of these renowned musicians?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to play with all sorts of cool people. Really, I mean, everybody I've jammed with is brought something to the table that was amazing, right? So.
Okay, so besides the guitar and the bass, because he also plays some bass, you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you play any other instruments? But before you go on to answer if you play any other instruments, tell us a little bit about your experience on the bass. How you've been playing the bass? How long you've been playing it?
Well, bass came after guitar, really. It was more of a necessity for when I started recording. I mean, my studio setup started as like a really crappy little 4-track cassette tape thing, where the cassette tapes would always stretch on you and whatnot, and the quality would just go down as you did more overdubs. And of course, I was just obsessed with it, so I'm constantly overdubbing. So yeah, I mean, my bass playing came as a result for that. And I mean, at first I started playing pretty much like a guitar, and my first bass influences were like guys like Kronos from Venom, and Martin St. Ain from like Celtic Frost, and Lemmy was another one, because all these guys were using distortion and stuff on their bass. Shane Embry from Napalm Death was another one, because they had these big fuzzy bass sounds, and back then that's what I was sort of into, right? But now I kind of have discovered that, hey, I can actually play bass, and I enjoy playing bass. So.
And you said you also play some keyboards as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't sort of toot my horn on it, but I can play a little bit of keyboards, yeah.
So you said that a book that touched you very much, that really got you going, is The Wealthy Barber by David Chilton. And David Chilton, for those of you who don't know that name, he was one of the panelists on the CBC's The Dragon Den. So you said you read that book and it sort of changed your life.
Well, it didn't change my life. It was some more sort of gave me structure in terms of like where I was going and how I wanted to do things. Like working in the music industry is really hard because, like, case in point, look what happened with COVID. I mean, the industry just died, literally. And I think it's going to take a while to get back to where it was. And one of the things it teaches you is to be humble and to really live within your means and watch your money grow and make your money grow for you. And part of the thing with music too is yeah, it's great to go do things on spec, and if you're getting something out of it emotionally and mentally and whatnot, then great. But it's good to get paid for everything that you do.
So in closing, because this hour has gone by so tremendously fast, Mike, it was such an entertaining show. I had a lot of fun, as much as did the audience. We have one last question here. Unfortunately, I'd like to go on for another hour. We went through just half of the stuff we had to cover over here. But can we have you back on another show sometime?
Yeah, we'll just have to do one after I do the Huntsville's Got Talent thing or something. I don't know.
We'll work something out with the producer. So, Mike, in signing off over here, the last question is, what would you say to aspiring musicians that want to reach their dream?
Dream big. Live within your means. Dream big. And my philosophy with music and performing and being an entertainer and being a professional musician, you are nothing without the audience. Without the audience, you got an empty room you're playing to. It's great that musicians have this whole star attitude. I get it. I totally do. And it's easy to fall into. But, and players who play for themselves and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like one of the most humbling experiences for me was playing the Gagarin Theater in Athens, Greece. And I was hearing people spend like a month's wages to come see Gypsy Rose play.
Wow.
And they waited like 20 years for us to get out there and do that. So that was really, for me, that was really like an eye-opening moment for me in the sense that, holy crap, like we take it for granted. And I mean, concert tickets are expensive, but to spend a whole month's wages on that. So
that's devotion. Wow. That's beautiful.
I kind of made it my mission statement to sort of go out and shake as many hands, photo ops, say thank you to as many people as I could, because again, without them, we wouldn't be playing there. We wouldn't be in the beautiful city of Athens and playing such a great, I mean, like Slayer played at the Gagarin Theater, like, I mean, it's a gorgeous hall. And, there were some problems. We had all sorts of issues. There was a water issue where there was a flood. Like primary power had to get cut. The fire department got called. The marshals that I was going to plug into, I guess they were tested without a load on them, so they were blown. And we were running around trying to find an amp. And everybody's yelling at each other. I'm like,
oh, wow,
guys, all I need is a clean amp. Got to be a Fender amp or something somewhere with someone. And there was a Fender Twin, so we said, let's mic it up, put it behind the Marshalls, so it looks like I'm playing the Marshalls. My rig is basically designed to sound like it does to any amp because I just run the amps clean. And beautiful. I use a distortion pedal for all my gain sounds. So, but again, it was like small time problems. It's like first world problems. Like at the end of the day, it is about the audience. If there isn't an audience, there's no show.
Mike, thank you so much for being on our show with us. You're going to hang around and stay around for the meet and greet?
Sure, yeah.
So stay by. So, Mike, if you want to say goodbye to the audience, this is your moment.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Stand by. That was our guest tonight, the amazing Mike McAvan, and absolutely talented. He's a singer-songwriter. He's actually the best guitarist right after Eddie Van Halen that I've ever heard. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this fantastic show. A reminder, this upcoming Wednesday, I'm going to be co-hosting Noon Hour Out of the Box with the amazing Esther B. And our topic this week is going to be all about fibromyalgia. Next week as well, we're going to have another fantastic show. We're going to have a singer-songwriter and VP of Sales and Marketing at Godin Guitars, Mr. Mario Bifarelli. So, folks, from coast to coast and all over the world, thank you once again for tuning in to Rob's Inner Circle. We'll see you next week. Same reason, same place, same time. Ciao.